Welcome back, everyone. We're going to jump in and take a look at our first segment, long-term listings, managing your seller's expectations. The bane of every realtor's existence, the listings that don't sell and how to manage it.
Well, and again, going into this time of year, it's if you're not already dealing with it, I mean, hopefully you don't have to deal with it and all of your listings sell very quickly, in which case, congratulations, that's amazing. But it's just part of this business, and there's a technique involved in how to manage your clients when things take longer to sell than you expected. So how do you kind of manage that? This is something we've talked a lot about lately. At least in my office, I've talked a lot about it. We've talked about it at huddles. I'm sure you in your office have talked about it as well. So it seems to be an issue. So we're going to give you some ideas.
Dig in.
Yeah.
First one to me has always been right way back here so we can access prior learning is at the initial listing consultation.
Absolutely.
You've got to manage and set that stage and manage the client's expectations. So it's important to educate them what's happening in the market, be showing them average days on market, reviewing the importance of pricing correctly. So have the examples of the listings that have expired, terminated, 200 days on market, all with multiple price drops, everything else, and discuss why. And on the flip side, have the ones that were marketed correctly. They were priced aggressively for a down market, which we recommend. The home showed well, phenomenal photos, all of the different marketing pieces we need to put together. If it's not selling, it's sometimes not always priced. You can be priced correctly, but if your marketing and your photos are crap, people won't go see it.
Yeah.
I would much rather have somebody complain to me that the house didn't show quite as well as the photos than a person never come because my photos I took with my phone as I wandered through the house.
I always had that philosophy too, and there's lots of agents that say, well, I don't want the photos to look better than the home, so they're disappointed when they get there, but at least they got there. They actually walked into the property, whereas, I mean, take crappy photos and people are just going to skip over it.
I only have once ever wrote an offer where a client hadn't viewed the home. If you can't get them in the home, they're likely not going to buy it.
Yeah.
It's so critical to have good, but that's also part of our interview is managing that customer and their seller to prepare the home properly.
Yeah.
So if you were doing your marketing analysis and chatting with them, you say, and you're addressing all the issues that you see, and you say, if we don't want to do anything, here's our list price and likely sale and return on investment. But if you're going to invest the time and effort to make it show its absolute best, then we can have a much better result and let them choose.
I like that. So you give them different pricing structures. So if you want to do nothing, you can list and sell at this price. But if you want to do a few things and, make the home show ready, really fix up the items, this is where you'll be.
And a great one to use for an example is talking about when you go to trade your car in even.
Right.
When you go to trade your car in, we all do it. We go wash it, we clean it all up, we take out the 42 bags of old McDonald's stuff in the back seat, all this stuff, and we want it to look real good so that we can get the best trade-in amount possible.
Yeah.
It's no different with your home. It has to be in the absolute best showing condition possible. If there are things they can't address, you have issues within the home, things like getting a quote ahead of time for any repairs, painting, replacement of items, and say, you know what, the client, they're not going to do these things, but we've told you, we can show you what it'll actually cost. Because when buyers walk in and they see curled shingles, they go, oh, it's 20 grand for a roof, or it's 10,000 for flooring, and it's 8,000 to paint, and they're like double or more what the true cost will be to get it done.
Right.
And sometimes then, if we have that information, a potential buyer who's got room on their credit could look at doing a mortgage plus to address all of those issues. So if we're a little more proactive and think about what solutions do we need to put in place. So really look at it and say, okay, what will make this better? And if I can't afford to do it, let's do the next best thing.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. And proper staging, virtual staging, a lot of realtors have been having some success with it,
Yeah.
as we see quite a few more vacant properties.
Yeah.
It is, at least it gets them in the door, but manage the expectation up front. Make sure the realtor who's going to show it understands it's virtually staged.
Yeah, I agree. If you can't stage it for real, it's better than a
Nothing.
vacant, yeah,
Yep.
empty pictures. I want to go back to something that you said when we first started talking about this, which was setting their expectations with price and days on market right off the bat. So doing a thorough CMA obviously is very important, but if you do a thorough CMA that your client doesn't understand, you're kind of missing the point.
Yep.
You might understand it, but really taking the time to explain that to a client and really, walking them through step by step, this is what your neighbor sold for, and here's why your home is a little bit different. And, taking the time to actually go through that with people so that they get it. And they're not just like, well, my neighbor sold for $500,000, so I should sell for $500,000.
Exactly.
And taking the time to just do that. But also with days on market, I feel like consumers might not really understand what is happening out there, and it really changes quite quickly, and it's very micro market specific. Like one community could be very different than another community, and if they talk to their friend who sold in another community, they might just get completely the wrong idea of what this looks like in reality.
You mean sellers will have people telling them what their realtor's doing wrong because they've sold their house once?
Exactly. So I think it's really important to talk through the days on market, but not only average days on market, like take the time to go through the stats and look at what's happening in their community, specifically in that price range.
Yes.
And talk through that. And what you mentioned about showing them properties that have had multiple price reductions and what that did to their days on market versus listing it properly up front and how that affected their days
Price.
on market and price, I think that's extremely valuable. Like spend an extra hour up front to not have to have these hard conversations down the road is not only going to help you in your job, but it also keep your sellers' kind of anxiety at bay through that process.
Well, and from our super huddle the other week, Amy Ganji, who was sitting at the table I was at, brought up one that the whole room really liked, which was when you're dealing with that pricing objection because they want the I need or but I want, his expression was, do you want me to list your home or do you want me to sell your home?
Oh, it's so powerful.
Yeah, it creates that mental picture very quickly. If you want me to sell your home, we have to price it where it needs to be to get sold. If you want me to list it, sure, we'll list it at whatever you want.
Right.
Won't sell, but that's okay. You're okay with 6 months on the market, no offers?
Yeah.
You might want to be a little smoother maybe about how you approach that with them when you talk about the negatives of that, but it is so true.
Well, and this is kind of a good opportunity, it's a little bit of a side tangent, but not really, to really consider if you want to take that listing. If they just want to list it and not sell it, you as an agent get to decide if that's a property you want to list.
Absolutely.
And really, in my experience at least, I have found that when the conversation changes to maybe I don't want to list this property, a lot of the time their attitude changes.
They want you, but
Yeah.
and if you're not going to do the price they want,
Well, I think it just
And you're
makes it
gonna walk.
a bit more real to them.
Yeah.
In that, like, no, I'm serious. This is my career. This is, my name on that sign. I don't want my name on that sign for 6 months if it should sell in 2. So I think you have the opportunity to have that discussion with your clients and also with yourself and your own business practices if that's, the direction that you want to go. And anyways.
well, and when you're talking with the client too, you can talk about, I'm a professional and I need to price it where it will sell. I would much rather have you upset at me today because I tell you the truth
Right.
than list it too high to make you happy, have it sit for 6 months, never sell,
Yeah.
and you're just angry at me because I didn't tell you the truth.
Well, and there's a certain emotional toll that happens in this career. I think we can all agree on that. And
Yep.
and having sellers kind of breathing down your neck because you're not doing enough or or you're not getting enough showings, or that kind of thing can really weigh down on you. And going into the winter months on top of that, I think it's a really good opportunity to really sit down and think about what how your strategy as an agent over the next 6 months from now until spring market. How are you going to list these properties to sell them, and at what price do you think they're really going to sell, and spending that extra time doing that work up front and making the decision on whether or not you want to take the listings on.
Well, and giving them the fair market value range, setting goals.
Yeah.
When do you want to be in your next home? How quick do you want this one to sell? And you're right, it's very powerful to say, you know what, I can't achieve what you want. Sorry, it's just reality, and I wish you the best of luck. If you need some names of realtors that'll list it at whatever you want, I'm happy to provide those to you.
Right.
But I can't list your home at this price and then get it sold. And it would be wrong of me to take this listing, get your hopes up, when I would have to do what a lot of realtors do, list it at whatever and hammer you for price drops. And we've already reviewed that, and I showed you the examples.
Yeah.
And bring back already the stuff you've shown them. Two people have to sign the contract. You got to agree with all the terms as much as the seller does.
I had some luck, and I've had some luck with agents trying this out too, is if you really want to take the listing and you believe in doing that, that's the right thing to do for your business and your client, even if it is more than you think it should. To do a pre-agreed upon price reduction.
Yeah.
So having the conversation, okay, we'll list at your price today for 2 weeks, and then on such and such date, and I would strongly suggest doing this in writing by way of an amendment.
I would only do it in writing.
Yeah, I've learned that lesson the hard way.
2 weeks quickly turns into 8 when they agree verbally.
Yes. So do the pre-signed amendment for a price drop as of 2 weeks from now to the price that you think is the right price. And that's worked well as well, because then you get the listing, you have the opportunity to list it still, but your client feels like they're being serviced and heard, but then you also, if it doesn't work, then you get your price.
Well, and the importance of the day you list is setting up your communication plan with your seller. Because if they do get tons of showings, one, you don't want to be responding to every showing that they want response in 10 minutes. Manage that expectation. We'll have a weekly phone call. We'll review any showings. I'll have had a chance to follow up, get feedback, all of these different things. And we can manage that so it works within your time schedule. The client, we've all had the client who phones us every time or parks around the corner and phones me to tell me they were in there for 17 minutes and 42 seconds. Is that a good thing?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'll find out when I do my follow-up. Are you going to phone them right now? No. I'm going to do my follow-up properly, which will be later this evening or tomorrow morning when I already have it scheduled.
Well, and having that conversation up front about what the communication will be like moving forward, I think is very valuable as well. So, having the discussion about when you ask for feedback and, when you're going to update them on what's happening in the market and if any of their neighbors sold or anything like that. So whatever your plan is, like let's say you plan to communicate with them every Monday, and that's just your business. So every Monday you're going to do a document that says, okay, this is how many people have favorited your property. This is how many people have sent to your property. Like the hot sheets on Matrix. Those are awesome. Those numbers are valuable, and they're there for a reason, so use them. So send those out to your clients every week, and then I would suggest following up with an actual phone call, because there's a big difference between purely electronic communication and actually having a voice-to-voice or face-to-face conversation. Meeting with your client once a month to review a CMA, doing an updated CMA is a good idea.
Full market analysis.
Yeah.
There's a reason when we get a foreclosure, the banks and everyone else force us every month to provide a marketing update.
Yeah.
They want to know what we've been doing, what has changed in the marketplace, because they're going to factor that in. And we're talking about banks that have no emotions, it's just numbers.
Yeah, exactly. So, having that communication guideline up front is really important. And if you don't have a plan, you should probably come up with a plan on what your communications should be like with your sellers.
So we've talked quite a bit now just about what to do with a listing that's coming on
Yes.
to set that stage. What about those ones that we didn't do this 4 months ago and now we're sitting with a
Right.
4-month-old listing?
Yeah.
What can we do to keep it alive and keep the customer happy, that they know we're working?
So the first thing that I would do is I would update your photo, at least the outside photo.
Yeah. There's that white stuff
There's
outside.
white stuff
might make a little
outside. So if
different,
you have a
yeah.
bunch of flowers in your background and it's springy and stuff, it's a pretty good indication that your property's been sitting for a while. So update your pictures. I also think that sellers like to see that you're still doing things also. So
Absolutely.
that's something that you can do to freshen the listing up.
Well, and it's interesting, 2 of my realtors came in last week, and they've done this with other realtors. They've asked for that independent third person who's not emotionally tied to the listing, just to go through their listing with them. What did I see? And we suggested some deletion of photos, changing some orders, what little things.
Right.
And it at least gives them now the opportunity to go back to the client and say, not everybody has all the answers, so we're bright enough to go out and try and see what we can do to improve. And here's some things we're now doing to your listing to make it look a little bit different. There's always the take it off the market and relist if it's been on too long. I don't worry too much about CDOM. It takes 30 days to reset.
Yeah, I never did either. I know that some agents do. To me, I don't want to waste those 30 days being off the market. I mean, there could be a buyer out there during those 30 days. So I know that there's a lot of agents that do subscribe to that, but I mean, to me, that's just 30 days you're losing being off the market. So CDOMs, but terminating and relisting does freshen the market. It shuts down the DOMs to restart, and then it also gets resent out to anyone who has a search set up. So it kind of does most of the same thing without the 30-day waiting period.
Other things that we can do, we've obviously called for feedback for other ones. Quite often, if you're watching the market close, you'll see where a realtor who showed your property just recently bought one in the same neighborhood or very close to yours, very similar.
Yeah.
And sometimes where realtors are not as prone to give full feedback while their person is in the process of buying, but if they've made a buying decision, you can have some pretty frank conversations with that realtor and say, what was the tipping point, why that one over ours? And even being able to communicate that back then to your seller, that you went to that level to find out what caused that buying decision there instead of at our property. How could we have done better?
Yeah.
It can be very powerful because you will have listings come off the market that they're not priced right, they're just not, the right person hasn't walked in, the seller gets tired, they want it off. But if you've done all of these things all the way through, they understand that you've been working hard and it's outside of your control that the property didn't sell.
Right.
They don't always blame the realtor. Now, the realtor sticks a sign on the lawn and lets showing time book all their showings, and the next time they communicate with their seller is if and when they get an offer.
Right. Not ideal.
You're going to get your butt kicked to the curb pretty quick.
Yeah.
But you're in there showing you're trying, people respect that for the most part.
So talking about feedback, there was quite a lengthy discussion on this on Facebook, on the Calgary Realtors page. So not on our Facebook page, but just the generic Calgary Realtor page. And it started with an agent, and I don't remember all the details, but it started with an agent who was frustrated because nobody was replying to feedback and no agents were giving feedback to her. I think it was her, I don't remember. Anyways.
A realtor will be asexual.
I can't remember who it was. Anyways, a realtor. And there was a really interesting discussion that came out of it about, how are you trying to get feedback from people? Are you allowing just showing time to send the reminders after every showing and it's completely automated? Because if you didn't know this, at least there was, I think there still is, a way that you can shut off those notifications. And I was totally guilty of this because when you're showing, a lot of properties in a week, it's difficult when you get, reminders for every single property a lot for those feedback requests. So it's not that, I don't believe that that means that you're a lazy agent or anything like that if you're not replying to every single showing time feedback request, because it's all generic.
Well,
Now,
and it comes about 20 seconds after you close the
right, and you're like
lockbox.
still in the middle of showing, and then you leave, and yeah. So I'm a huge fan of the personal communication.
Absolutely.
So whether it's a phone call or even a text message, I like getting text messages because I could reply when I wanted to, but it was still personal directly from the agent. I found when I was trying to get feedback, that was way more effective than just allowing showing time to do the auto thing. Agents were way more responsive to that. And it sounded like that was kind of the general consensus in this Facebook conversation as well. So I believe also that it is part of our job to go that extra mile and try, to get that feedback. It's so valuable. And what you're talking about from, trying to get that, what was it that made your client choose another property? Or is there anything we can do to make this property go from number 5 to number 1 on the list? What does that conversation look like? And actually having real life conversations with other agents is where you're going to get the extra from.
Absolutely, and I
Yeah.
think too, if you get that great feedback on a listing like that, and they said, you know what, it was just, they're not handy. They don't want to do these things. Other than that, it's a pretty good house. What if we then created a reverse offer and addressed and answered their issues?
Right.
You never know.
Yeah.
Even if it doesn't, and I don't want to say it wouldn't go somewhere, but if it didn't,
Yeah.
does your seller still think, look at the effort they went to
Right.
and tried to generate that? And when you tie that back in with everything else that you're doing, it's not like you left any stones unturned
Right.
in their mind.
You're being proactive about it. If there's an opportunity for a deal to get put together there, you're going to uncover it.
When I used to speak to realtors and they say, I just can't comment on what especially after 2014 and designated agency
Sure.
and everything came in, I used to say, I understand you not wanting to share what your clients thought about it, but you're a professional. If this was your listing, what 3 things could I improve on it?
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with what your clients want. Chances are they're going to regurgitate what their clients didn't like,
Yeah.
but they're not breaking confidentiality in their mind.
Right.
They're giving their personal opinion. And you will still get 25% that tell you, what are you wasting my time for? And if they haven't got time to help you, that's okay.
Okay. Yep.
When they do, and what I always found interesting was they were also a lot of the ones that would still phone you for feedback when you showed their listing.
Yeah.
And I would usually bring up politely, last time I asked you, this is what you said to me, but that's not how I work. So I'm going to give you my feedback right now, but next time I'd appreciate the same courtesy.
I would call that good real estate karma.
Yes.
I believe that there's
I love that one.
that there's like a specific karma just for real estate. And I think that is good real estate karma.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Gives you the opportunity to remind them next time do it.
Yeah, exactly. Last one before we change topics. I want to talk about realtor caravans.
Yes, I love them. I always
Yeah.
do.
See, there was a long period of time there where they weren't really happening because the market was moving so
When
quickly.
the market goes
Yeah.
fast, nobody does
Nobody
a
does
caravan.
them. But I believe strongly that this is a very good opportunity to get a third or a non-bias or a third perspective on your listing, because you've been in your listing a bunch of times. There's this like thing that happens where you maybe won't recognize things that don't look good or whatever. You maybe have a personal connection with your sellers and you don't have the heart to tell them to take down their heirlooms or whatever it is.
Their tiki glasses.
Whatever it is. There's, it could be 1,000 things. But, having that conversation with other agents that can say, you got to take that down, or like, this is really off-putting, or, did you smell that when you walked in? Whatever it is, having that someone else say it can really kind of help buffer that conversation a little bit.
Yep.
Or just having someone else agree with you, or again, that fresh set of eyes can just really change things.
Yeah, can make some great suggestions. The one thing I found valuable when talking to my clients about doing one was I would say, you know, we're going to search. There's a lot of listings on the market. We'll even go outside your own community. So we're looking, and I'll probably email 70 to 80 realtors an invite to that. In there will be a live embedded link to at least click and look at our listing. So I'm going to get it exposed to at least 70 or 80 other realtors who are going to look at it quickly. And with a little luck, we should get 8 to 10 that will actually come through. And the one thing I always found, the ones that went on caravans were usually good realtors,
Yeah.
cared about their listings. They had an opportunity to go see 8 competitors that day
Yeah.
to have great market knowledge.
Well, and you're being collaborative.
Yeah,
And then you can go back to your clients and say, okay, I've looked at the other 8 properties that are in competition with you, and here's what I think. And bring that back too. So again, it's another thing that you're doing. You're being active. But I would not be passive about this. If no one else in that community is setting this up, don't be afraid to set up a caravan. It's not a scary thing to do. Most agents feel exactly how you feel right now, where you know the market's not moving and they don't really know what to do or what the next steps are. So I would just set one up. Don't be scared of it.
they're not that hard. It's about 3 to 4 hours work.
Yeah.
If 3 to 4 hours work ends up selling the home, how much do we make it? 8,000 divided by 4 hours. That's a pretty good hourly rate
Not bad.
for that one
Not bad.
activity.
Yeah.
Okay, you think have we beat it to death? Communicate,
think so.
communicate, communicate,
Yeah.
communicate.
Yeah. Just don't
Can't
forget about
communicate
them.
enough.
Sellers need a lot of hand holding, and
Yeah.
it's very valid. So make sure you don't forget about your people.
And when you've set up your communication plan and you follow through on it, your time is so much better managed because you're not getting 7 or 8, you got 7 or 8 listings and you're getting 7 or 8 phone calls from each one every week. I don't have time to do 64 individual phone calls. I've scheduled to do 8.
Right.
And the clients are happy and it's set for times that work for both of
Yeah.
us. It's
Makes
respectful.
your life more manageable.
Yes,
Okay. I think we beat it to death.
I think we beat it to death.
Good job.
Thank you.
Pat on the back.
Yes.
Okay. I think we.
All right,
Done?
now I get to grill you about this awesome thing called,
Wait.
Oh.
I think we have a video. Do we?
do we? Do we have a transition?
Video.
Oh,
Wow,
sorry.
You nailed it. Okay.
Thank
We'll
you
be
for
back.
saving me.